Welcome to Remain in the Race podcast, brought to you by 88 Live to Ride, with your hosts, Ryan Havens, Daniel Hillian, and Mitch Reynolds, where we're going to discuss all things family, life, racing, and outdoors, where all glory will be given to the one who created us.
You are listening to episode 38, and man, this one is going to be just a little special, but as always, got to give it up to our sponsors, 88 Live to Ride, RJR, and 110% Nutrition. And got to bring in my good friend across the table from me, rocking the vest tonight, Mitchell the Rocket Reynolds. How you doing, bud?
I am invested in this podcast.
Boy. Dad jokes. It's getting late. We're losing it.
We shouldn't be losing it. No, this is a special episode.
This
Something
is a fun
we've
one.
never done.
Yep.
The honorary episode number 155.
That's right.
In honor of Billy Clayton. So really fun. Looking forward to everyone hearing this, getting on the line with Beth and Bryan, just hearing some great memories of, what Billy did over the last 40 plus years in racing, what he did for the racing world. Got some good laughs in there, some where had to kind of hold the tears back just a little bit.
Yeah, it was a great interview, man. And
absolutely.
And Bryan and Beth were so good. They were so laid back and comfortable, and we had reached out, right after Billy had passed and just said, hey, take your time, but we would love to really honor Billy and the impact he's had on this sport, And they were like, absolutely, just let us get our feet under us. And man, they did a great job. So off the top, thank you so much to Bethany Clayton, to Bryan Clayton. Everybody calls her Beth now. She was Bethany growing up.
She was Bethany.
Yeah, so Beth Clayton, sorry Beth. And Bryan, Big B, always with the jokes. He had a few. We quit recording, thank goodness, because he got me a few times. But
he did.
Regardless, Mitch, it was a great interview, and really, we just want to kind of tip our hat to Billy and the impact he had on this sport. When we jumped back into racing last year, showed up there at Sykeston. Of course, hey man, good to see you again. What's up? Just like we were old buddies, and I even mentioned it in the interview. But it's just cool that when the sport kind of went through a huge dip, there. Late 2000s, early 2010s in that area, Billy Sykeston Race Park still getting it every weekend. And
continued it going.
Yeah,
baby.
Absolutely. So this is episode 38, but it's going to be the honorary 155.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to hit a verse real quick that just kind of this whole episode it made me think of. All right, so 2 Corinthians 1:4. It says, he comforts us, speaking of God, he comforts us in our troubles so that we can comfort others.
Yeah.
When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same. You're going to hear Beth and Bryan just kind of, pour it out there of how appreciative they were of how everyone just reached out and, said, hey, we're praying about you. We're thinking about you and kind of sharing the impact that Billy had on their lives, which, they know. They've been right there walking along with him all through this journey. But that is super cool how God connects us all so that we can comfort and we can be there for each other. And you can just kind of hear, how Beth and Bryan, even though this is a tough time, just kind of how their spirits are pretty uplifted. And that's got to be done through God using individuals to reach out to them and say, hey, we're thinking about you and we just appreciate the impact that y'all have had on our lives and all the things that Billy's done. So
yeah,
really, really, really cool.
Well, tell you what, why don't we just jump in? Let's get going. Let's get them on the line here and let y'all listen in. So, hey, y'all stick with us, and we'll be right back with Beth and Bryan Clayton. 88 Live to Ride is a nonprofit foundation invested in the protection, education, and safety advancements for all riders involved in ATV racing. One way you can support Miss Debbie Pard-Tosick over there is to log into smile.amazon.com when you're making all your purchases there and select 88 Live to Ride as the nonprofit you would like to donate to. Again, that's smile.amazon.com and 88 Live to Ride. Hey man, for this special episode, it's episode 38, but like we said, this is going to be episode 155. Me and the Rocket are joined with Miss Bethany Clayton and Mr. Big B himself, Bryan Clayton. How are y'all doing tonight, Bethany and Bryan?
I'm doing pretty good tonight, just settling down.
Bryan?
Yeah, doing good.
Doing good. Well, we're doing this on Zoom, and I'm currently looking at Bethany's ceiling, and Brian is in some kind of disco something with all kinds of laser lights and smoke and confetti. I don't know what's going on, Brian, but it looks sick.
Yeah, my gaming setup.
Oh,
Yeah, got Tom Brady with me too.
Oh, we got Tom there. I love it. I love it.
Excellent. Well, hey, this episode is all about your dad. We thought it would be great to have a Billy Clayton memorial. I mean, all the things that he has done in the ATV racing world, in the racing world in general, but the EDT world of just keeping it going for many, many years. So I want to step back to the beginning. When did your dad start racing initially?
So he initially started in like 1983. So it was just a couple years before I was born.
That's awesome. And then, so in 83, so that would have been about 4 years before I was born. When did he officially open Sikeston Race Park?
So Sikeston Race Park originally started with 6 different guys, and they came together and was like, oh, we want a track to race at locally. There's nowhere close, or TT racing just isn't popular in our area. So these 6 guys opened Sikeston Race Park up in 96. Well, the following year, my dad decided, hey, this is what I want to do. And they all sold their park to him. So initially, that's how it began. Okay.
So a partnership of guys that just love to compete and get out there. And your dad said, all right, I'm taking over and I'm going to run with this thing. And he did. I mean, Sikeston, the sandbox has been around and continues to thrive for many, 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 many years. In both the Midwest, and y'all have a local series there as well, where I know you have a big fall race. And then is it a winter race as well? How does that work?
So at the first of the year, we usually start out with a spring shootout, and then we go into the summer and we'll start our point series. And then we'll have a fall shootout, a Missouri State Championship, and and the MWEDT, the 2 rounds that are at the Sikeston Race Park too.
Sorry, I totally had a brain fart. I said winter race, but anyway, I do remember your state championship. I looked forward to that as a kid. Because y'all would make like 6 foot tall trophies, and so you wanted to go and win that, and then get your name on the board there at Sikeston Race Park, which lines the fence. If you've never been there, it lines the fence where you can go up there and watch. You can look back at all the names at every single class, who the winner was of the state championship for that year. So it's really cool to see your names, although my name's not on any of those, unfortunately.
Mine either. But I remember just it being such a big deal to go to Sikeston. And what's funny is, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, but it was never Sikeston Race Park. Like, you never told your buddies, like, hey, man, we're going to Sikeston Race Park. It was always the sandbox or just Sikeston.
Yeah.
And it was just so cool that track is not like, I mean, some people are running a different tire than anywhere else you would run on flat track, the old classic tri-track. And it's such a unique thing. And to have Billy, Billy was just a cool, unique dude. It's like, of course he would run this track. Of course he would be connected with this kind of one-off track for so many years. And, there for a long time, it was the only place, for us here, Missouri, Arkansas, it was the only place to race for 200 miles, 300 miles. I mean,
ways out for sure.
And it's always been there is what's super cool.
You talk about, Go ahead, Beth.
I was just going to say, it was one of the only ones out there for a while, because I remember growing up, me and Dad would have to travel over to the East Coast to run the AMA Nationals, because that's all there was.
Yeah, you'd have to go to like Greenville, like Tennessee, North Carolina. Of course, ask if you lived there you're like, yeah. Oh, me and old Mitchell's made them trips. Yeah, it was forever and a day over there.
Hey, you were saying, the uniqueness of Sikeston. That was one thing about your dad's style. It was unique. Like, he would sling it sideways. And I know that's more of the style nowadays. Like, people sling it sideways big time. But before that was ever really a thing, I remember your dad just leaning off the side, and he would just pitch that thing so sideways when I was a little kid. And I think that's what the sandbox kind of lends you to anyway, kind of that style of racing. And I remember racing against Beth. She had a little bit of that same style as well. So is that where that was all developed, or was that your dad's style as long as you can remember?
Well, honestly, everybody tells me that I raced like my dad, so I guess I just picked it up from him.
That's what I always thought. Y'all seem to emulate each other's style. I mean, even back when we raced each other on mods, I can remember that, or tried to race each other. That is.
Yeah, those are the fun days.
Yeah, those were the good days before it got so serious. You ride your pit bike and then you go race, and then you ride your pit bikes.
You had no idea how much fuel cost. You had no idea how much tires cost. You were just living. Yeah. And now you get older and it's like, oh, I have to put gas in my own vehicle to go to the race. I have to buy my own pails of fuel. Yeah. Good times. Live it up, kids, while you can.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to move over to the motorsports side of this, away from the racing, your dad's business. So CNC Motorsports. Tell us how that evolved and kind of how that was structured and looked over the years.
So originally he started a power sports business in 1993. It was called CNC Cycle. He ended up having a Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Arctic Cat franchise. He had that for probably, I would say 10 years. They sold the franchise and he got into the smaller business type and focused more on promoting racing and so forth. And when he did that, he decided, I'm going to build myself back up. And he opened CNC Motorsports and Racing up. Well, from then, he's just built his way back up. And a lot of people don't know this about my dad, but back when I was about 15, 16 years old, Dad hit rock bottom. He ended up getting a divorce. And it was one of those things where he couldn't even afford to put gas in his truck to get across town. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you have to think he's worked himself up to the top. That's all he's done his entire life is work, work, work. And he's one of the few that actually did it. He was the small business owner that made it happen.
Right. And so that's what, with CNC Sports, no, CNC Cycles. Yeah. And so what happened from there? Because is that where, the SEMO track came into play?
Yeah, the SEMO track came in, I want to say about 2003, 2004. Sonny James is the one that opened that up, and Dad promoted for him. Then when Sonny passed, it was sold and other different promoters came in. Actually, before Dad had passed, he was in the process of trying to buy SEMO to open it back up.
Oh, wow. So they're not even racing there anymore.
No. They wasn't, but he was trying to buy the track to, get another racetrack open back up. He was going to do four-wheelers and karts. And Brian, wasn't he talking about doing like 305 sprints and stuff?
No, he was going to do some midgets and micros.
Midgets. Okay. That's what it was. I knew he had,
So Billy
was going to do a little bit more.
Yeah. He always had a little something extra up his sleeve.
You have no idea.
You guys really don't. He kept us on our toes.
That's so funny because we were talking about something on I don't remember what episode it was, and Brian, you sent me and Mitch a text and goes, "Have y'all been talking to Dad?" And it was like, "Oh, should we have been?" And you're like, "Yeah, man, we've already that's already in the works, man." And it was like, cool, So you just never knew with old Billy what he had going on. That's awesome. All right, next question, Mitch. Keep us going.
Hey, I was still on the CNC Cycle, the whole power sports thing. So is that where the green originated? Because then I also, and maybe this is wrong of me, but I always associated you guys with green. That seemed to be your color. So was that the Kawasaki deal?
And Arctic Cat. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're exactly right. Back when he had CNC Cycle back in the 90s, we got sponsored by Team Kawasaki. It was back when Ricky Carmichael and Jeff Emick was racing. I don't know if you guys remember them, of course.
Oh, yeah.
They race Supercross.
Yeah. I know who they are, Beth.
Okay, so
we're as old as you are.
I figured you were. So we went down to Florida and we went to these dealer shows and we got to meet up with them. And they're the ones that got us into the aspect of the Team Kawasaki, and they sent a KX85 motor for me and a KX250R motor. And that's where the KX500 motor came from. And that's when he started to build the custom frames, and he built that. We call it the dinosaur, but it's the KX500.
Yes. And it's, I mean, it was at the funeral. I mean, that thing is still around and running, right?
Yeah. They, it hasn't ran in a while. We had to get a new pipe made for it. Mm-hmm. And I think Dad was, had the itch that he was just going to go take it out to the track and ride it. He had kind of mentioned it a few times.
Yep.
But when he had passed, we got the bike out, and our mechanic Richard, he got it running, and it seemed like it was just everything fell together, and it was super easy, that it was just meant to be running for that event.
Yeah. It's crazy how things like that, just all the parts and pieces just fall into place at the right time. That's awesome. Yeah. So with the, I'm going to piggyback off of Mitch here, but with the motorsport stuff, now y'all also have like some custom made parts and stuff. Like, it's not just a dealership. Like, if you go online right now, like Brian is all the time posting about how he can get you in a side by side for $2 a month with the right, all this stuff. I'm just
right.
Turkey here. That's right. Come and see us. Come on down.
Yeah, you know where I'm at.
Yeah. But what else do y'all do besides the side by sides and the four wheelers and all that? Do y'all also do like have like a race shop there?
Yeah, we also do the race side part of it. Dad, he used to make A-arms and swing arms, and he started making sway bars and stuff. He has the jig set up at his house. So he had his own little machine shop at his own home.
Okay.
When his health kind of started declining a little bit, he backed off of it. But this past year, me and Brian actually got both sets of A-arms from Dad. He made us his last sets of A-arms he ever did, and I still got them on my bike right now.
Dude, that is cool.
I still have them.
Because I know, like, when Mitch was talking about, the Missouri State Championship in the early and mid, 2000s, well, even into the late 2000s, I just remember seeing, CNC. It was on, I mean, that was kind of y'all's brand. That was Billy's thing. But I thought, I'm like, are those CNC A-arms? Because, there was a few people back in the day that would take like a JD Performance A-arm and slap some other sticker on it and whatnot. But I'm like, no, I think those are actual things. So Billy had the jigs and everything, and you two, which is awesome, have the last two sets he ever made.
That's correct. And the swing arm. I forgot he built me a swing arm for me specifically, and I got that too.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So those boxes, they're yours forever now.
Oh, definitely. That's the truth.
Definitely. That is so cool. Okay. All right.
So let's continue. Continue. I'm sorry.
Good job, Daniel. Continue.
Yeah, continue. You're rubbing off on me. So, I mean, Billy was definitely an entrepreneur. I mean, we're seeing this already. I mean, everyone knows that. I mean, he was a person that just tried to have a relationship with everybody and figure out, how can we continue to grow this sport? So is that what led into you all owning the MWEDT and really getting and keeping that series going? Or lead us up into that, Beth or Brian, either one of you.
Brian, you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, so I think it was 2000 and 12. Roy Williams owned the series, and then he sold it to us, and then we kind of took over, and then from then on, and Beth jumped in with us, and from then on, it's just, we just worked at it and kept doing, best we could. And
now, during that time period, Brian, was when Roy had it, was it still the Midwest Series? Like, has that been the name, or when y'all took over, did y'all do a rebrand?
No, it was the Midwest Series.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so take me back, because there was a period of time that I was kind of out of the racing world. So there's a period of time I don't remember. At what point? So it was affiliated with the AMA. It was Extreme Dirt Track.
Yep. Okay,
and it was somewhat of a national series, or if you will. But then we split into kind of two regions: the NE-EDT and the MWEDT. Is that around 2012, or what years are we looking at there?
Yeah, that happened about. The NE-EDT, I think, was a little after the MWEDT. Okay. But yeah, then I think the last year the EDT was, what was it, 14 or 15?
Okay.
Yeah, it was something like that. I think it was 14.
Because the NE-EDT, they just had their 10-year birthday or something. You remember this?
Yeah. That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So y'all take over this series and like, okay, we're going to sustain this here in the Midwest area. Raced at areas Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota. I don't think I've missed any of them. But cover a lot of ground there. What's the thought process in how we're going to keep this going, how we're going to keep this sport pushing alive? Like, what were Billy's inner thoughts there? Like, what were y'all sitting down and talking about, Brian?
Just trying new things, going to different tracks, trying to find good locations, and getting sponsors and really get people to help that is a big face in the sport, just teaming up with people.
Yeah, partner with the people that are already doing it. That's a big part of it for sure.
I mean, ultimately at the core of it had to be your dad's love of racing. Like we know from the beginning, he loved to race, loved to compete, loved the family aspect. Obviously, he takes his family around in races as well. Y'all were heavily involved in that, so that's got to be probably the core of his motivation behind that.
So 2012, me and him went to all the races. He refereed actually for Roy in 2012. So
Okay.
he was the referee, and then after that year is whenever he bought it from Roy.
Very cool.
So a lot of people don't know he was referee, but yeah, he refereed for that year before.
That's cool. So I mean, we're right here, 9 years into this thing, and the Midwest it's kicking, it's going. And I mean, Daniel and I stay excited about it. I got to race it for a little bit, so I was glad that y'all kept that series going. I mean, it's ultimately the reason that I was able to get back into racing because, having a full-time job, I wasn't going to be able to travel 13 hours like we did before one way. And being that you guys had races that were 6 hours or so, I mean, that was very doable for me and my family to come out there and race. And Garrett was a big part of that because he's been racing y'all series, I guess, ever since he was a little kid, and he's really brought a lot of people through there as well.
Yeah, he has. He's definitely for a long time as the face, even really till now as the face of the MWEDT. I mean, he's been there from the very beginning. Just like Nick Kisner, Dusty Crouch, and all them. I mean, they've been there from the very, very beginning. Yeah, I'm sure I'm missing some, but
before Dagan was even born, Dusty's been a part of it for a long time, for sure.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Dusty was still racing then, and Dagan was a real little boy.
Yeah.
Wow, and then here they are growing up.
Pros.
Him and Bailey just growing up on us here.
I know. Good grief. Those two little lovebirds. Shout out to Bailey and Dagan.
Yeah, they just had their school dance or something went on this past weekend. They looked really cute.
Oh yeah,
I saw those pics posted up there.
Dagan rocking that pink tie.
Only the best. All right, Brian, I want you to tell me, give us a good Billy story. Like,
oh boy, this is good.
Let's hear it.
Man, we're gonna have to pass that one on to Beth and let me think for a minute. I mean, there's a lot. There's definitely
I got a good story that involves a few people you guys might know.
Yes, let's go.
Do it.
Throw them under the bus.
Do you guys remember racing at Orrville, Ohio? I believe it was probably, I'm going to say 1999. And during this time, Greg Casey was also racing.
Okay.
So we went out here, and this is the year the tornado hit by the track. So it ripped the track apart. It flipped over campers and everything. Well, prior to the storm being hit, Greg goes out in his heat race and just hits the wall and demolishes his bike. Okay. So the tornado comes and destroys everything. Well, everybody seemed to think that the tornado demolished Greg's bike, and everybody was bringing him parts and helping him put it back together and getting him ready for the main and stuff, and he never said anything, but, he was very grateful about it. But that's just some of the old stories. And, on our way to the National, Dad had bought a new truck. The truck caught on fire on the way there. So it was always something. Or there was one Nationals we were going to where we ran out of gas because a storm hit and there was no open gas stations. And we're on the side of the interstate pouring gas in the truck while semis are blowing by us and it's pouring down rain. I mean, there's just so many things.
So I got a great Billy story. Everybody got a great Billy story. So this was the first time I ever came up to Soxton Race Park, and I was probably 10, 11. There's also a young lady there that rode a Blaster, a Mod, a 250, a 450, a 650. I mean, I don't know. Beth, you were right. Whatever class you could get
1,000.
A 1,000. Yeah. I think she even had a boat. You know, she was racing out on the sandbox, you know, whatever.
Hey, she raced go-karts too.
Go-kart. Yeah. All the things. Okay. And anyway, so my brother's kind of dabbling in racing. He doesn't really know. I mean, he's got this Polaris Scrambler. You know what a Scrambler is, Mitch?
Polaris, I do know. I know exactly what that is.
So Drew shows up and he's like, I'm going to race the utility class. And so it's like, yeah. Come on. So there's some utility bikes out there. A Polaris Scrambler is not a utility.
It's not a race machine.
It's not a race machine. It's not a utility.
Don't even go down that road with me.
No. It's like the ultimate trail machine. So anyways, Drew gets in there and some other guy get on a Scrambler just like his, get in the utility class, and they just wax all these Honda 300s. Like this was before the Rancher. Okay. I mean, they're just eating them alive. Well, all these guys come up and they're like, dude, those aren't even fair. And then Drew and this other guy are like, yeah, that kind of wasn't even fair. So what they did was Billy's like, you know, he's the ultimate problem solver. And I the last time I saw him, I brought this up. But to solve the problem, he goes, okay, you two knuckleheads are in the sport utility class, and the rest of these guys are in the utility class. Problem solved. Okay. Everybody's happy, you know, yada, yada.
That sounds like them.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah. And so they're bringing them up on the, you know, the old podium there at Soxton right by the fence. And so Drew's up there and he wins. And I don't know, other bro, he's there. And Billy comes out and, you know, Drew is 6'5". I mean, he's a dadgum monster. And so Billy brings out this trophy and Drew's looking at it, and he brings out this other trophy for the other guy. And we're looking at it. We're like, what? Now that's odd. And Drew is dying laughing. And we're like, that's kind of weird. And so he comes over, he goes, look at the plate on this trophy. 4th place women's class. And the other guy got the 5th place women's class. And Billy said, hey man, we created a class just 5 minutes ago and I didn't have time to make trophies. And most people got bent out of shape. That to this day is probably the most coveted trophy my brother has, is the 4th place women's trophy he got for winning the sport utility class at Soxton Race Park. And to make it more gooder, you know, if you won at the state championship, you got something too. So it may be a case of oil or brake cleaner, you know, something. And so Billy's like, oh, hang on a second. And so he runs back over there to the little building and he comes back and he's got 2 cases of oil. And we're like, hot dog, that's awesome, Billy. And he goes, all right, yeah, I'll see y'all later, you know, yada, yada. So we just throw it in the truck, go home. Don't think anything about it. And so we get home a couple weeks later and it's like, okay, let's change the oil. And Drew goes, man, I can't wait to get into that case. Cause it was like Maxima or something, you know, like good quality oil. Right. You already know.
Oh, no, I'm just laughing.
It's 2-stroke oil. We have 0 2-strokes. And it's Drew won a 4-stroke class, and it's like classic Billy, a case of 2-stroke oil and a 4th place women's trophy. We laugh about that. If there's a group of people talking about racing, me or Dad or even Drew will bring up that story. I mean, it's classic Bill, but that's a good one. He made it work, and it has lasted forever, you know. And I can remember other people going, "Yeah, I remember this one time," you know, and just great stories, man. I mean, he was always making it work.
Oh man, he had his stories, dude. Like we'd just be sitting at the shop, you know, and nothing would get done some days just because he would just his stories, man. He's got so many that he would just sit there and tell, and some of them, you know, we always heard, you know, over and over again, but it was always great to hear, you know, just because it was hilarious. But
well, hey,
yeah, the best ones were he was back in the day with all the pros and stuff. We always got to hear back in the day stories.
Oh man,
Greg Little, Keith Little, Joe Bird. I remember all those cats coming up for the Missouri State Championship.
So you know who shot him?
Billy Clayton,
the 155 machine. It's for days.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
He always talks about the 2001 State Championship. There was like 40 of them out there, and or not out there, but they had a race to make the main LCQ and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about, beating Greg Little, Keith Little, holding Keith Little off.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes across the finish line, checkered flag, and he just falls off the bike.
Falls off. I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. There.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh my goodness.
Beth waxed me there. That wasn't cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he said I just couldn't hold on, and I was like, well, I'll just get off. So I just falls off.
My favorite story of him, and it so he raced every weekend out there, even though he owned it, and he had a big rival out there that they won, each other won every other week, and something happened, I guess, in a heat race, and he got black flagged or something. I don't know. Like they was rubbing too hard.
I remember that night.
So and Billy got black flagged?
Oh yeah.
Yes, he did.
So listen. So he
black flag. That's great.
He so in the main, we used to start on the other side.
Yep.
And for anyone that don't know, where the finish line is, that straightaway before the finish line, that's where they started back there by the big berm.
Yep.
That's right.
And so they take off, and he goes around the first corner. Well, him and the guy side by side, and going into that little hairpin right-hander there, he literally shifts up and holds it wide open and just creams this dude. I mean, full throttle, just takes him out. And he ended up with a broken sternum and everything else. But
broke his wrist and everything.
Oh, yeah. And he told him, he said, now that's the black flag. But it was a big ordeal. And they tell the story to this day, like he slow getting up, but he got up and he never let no one know he was really hurt. And one of his buddies were there, and he's getting ready to load the trailer up, and he looked at him. He said, "Hey Mike, can you help me pick this door up?" "No, I can't pick it up, man." And then, but stories like that, man, I heard that one all the time, and that was always my favorite.
Oh yeah, I remember that night. I definitely remember that night.
Because I just like, and he's he was limping the past 5, 6 years. Yeah. And I always tell him, I was like, we always get to talk about racing. I was like, because you huddle wide open, shift it up, and go and hit someone. I said, that's why you're limping now. But
it was a great story, man.
Oh man, he had no care in the world. And then he got in a wreck somewhere. I want to say it was up in Dutchtown, and he was in a coma for like 3 days.
Yeah.
Or something.
So he got into a bad wreck when I was little too. It was before Brian was born, up at Belleville. He that first corner he wiped out, and when he came to, he did not know anybody that he was with. Like none of the people he rode with. He didn't even know he was racing four wheelers. He was literally saying, "Whose four wheeler is that?" And they're like, "Billy, that's yours." And he's like,
"That's yours, man.
I got a 3-wheeler, Yeah, it took him about a good 3 to 5 hours to come back too, but he had no clue where he was, and it flat just wiped him out up at Belleville.
Wow. Man.
I'll tell you another funny story real quick.
Come on with it.
He loved this one. This is probably one of his favorites just because, but it was 2010. It's when, I don't know if y'all was paying attention around that time of racing or whatever, but we had an EDT race here at Sykeston. That was the first EDT race we ever had, like the actual extreme dirt track, and
like a national,
like a legit national. Mm-hmm. And it flooded that week, but the week before we always made the week before a big race, even though kind of like we do it's the Midwest.
Yeah.
And
like the prelude to the national.
Right, like the prelude. And so there was like 20 of them. We had some fast locals. I mean, I don't know if like Brandon Solinger, Rusty Tanner, and people like them. We had some real fast locals, and even Dad was fast then, but Austin Roberts. But so it was super, super muddy, and they're in the main. And when I say it's muddy, I mean it's like crazy muddy. Like they shouldn't even race. And Dad got the whole shot.
Yeah.
And he led him and Steve Cox. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he was a pretty good local too. Mm-hmm. And they outran, and there was a bunch of people the week before, like Colt Lossball. I'm sure you remember him.
Yeah. Yes.
I remember a few others, and he beat him, and then Austin Roberts came up. He got like fourth or something, and he was sitting there talking to Dad. He was laughing, and he was like, "Well, what place did you get?" And Dad's like, "I won," and he didn't believe him. He was like, "No, you didn't."
He did. He was laughing at him.
His dad just he cracked up about that. He always cracked up about that because Dad won, and they was way behind him. Like,
but and Brian, you hit the nail on the head. There's something about Soxton. You can either ride it or you can't.
Oh yeah, man.
And it's one of those things that there were some, like guys that follow the series, like your top level guys, that follow the series that are pretty good, that could go to Soxton and just absolutely wax everyone. And then there were guys that are good everywhere and they go to Soxton and it's just a fight. Like it's just one of those cool tracks. It's just a good equalizer. It's the Southwick of the EDT world.
That's exactly it is.
Yep.
But you talk about, the way he rode, like pitching it sideways, and I was racing. It was back in probably 07. I was on the 90 mod, 07, 08. And I just remember him going in that corner on the back straightaway, back berm, going into the finish line corner. And he would just be like completely like off the hand, off on the nerf board, just sideways. The bike just be dead sideways.
Yeah.
So, and I I tried that on my 90 mod. And actually, it was working for me. And actually, so I have a lot of his riding style too. He blocked a lot, and I blocked a lot. So that's how I won most. I won a lot of Flickerwood races, and that's how But
get the start and hold your line, and
oh yeah,
oh that is so good.
I love it. Hey, I've got a good story for y'all. So
yep.
This is me and a Billy interaction. Okay, this is the last time that I raced at y'all's track. Well, no, I raced actually the Pro-Am there last time, but when I was racing y'all's series and I was in the pro class, I had to haggle him around or something, and because I always wanted a different option line or something of that nature. Just just me being cantankerous, I guess. But I went to Billy when we were at y'all's track, and this was before the option line was just kind of grassed over. Okay. And I was like, Billy, like, what about this track becoming one line and not passing? And, I was concerned about that and I wanted option line. He said, Mitch, I'm going to tell you this. If you can't pass on this track, you're not a real racer. And I said,
true.
Noted. Yes, sir.
It is probably the passiest track that I've ever seen. You have more, if you go back and just watch live videos, you can just see the amount of people that are back and forth. It's all about the momentum, keeping that up on the berms. And there's a lot of little different tricks, when we decided to put that Joker lane right there where we call it the sand pit right there, and where we staged to go out and practice.
Yeah.
When they first did that, there's some of the pros were hitting that. And, me just being an amateur, I went over there. I was like, guys, I've raced this track for a long time. I was like, when you come through this sand pit, you guys are hitting this too hard and you're getting stuck. I said, just kind of glide around there and don't hit it so hard. Well, about 3 of them listened to me and the rest didn't. And it cost one of them the champion. It cost one of them the big money. I'm not going to lie, but they figured it out real quick this past year.
Yes. Hey, it was gnarly for sure.
Absolutely.
But I love it.
So I went out there, and that was because I really didn't race y'all's track that much. I mean, every time I did, y'all just smoked me. Like you, and every time I raced it, Jay and you would just smoke me. And so that would have been back in the mod days. But so I go out and I actually passed Trent and Garrett in that race. I said, all right, Billy, I'm a real racer.
Yeah.
That didn't last in the main, but show my cards in the heat race. It was like, you can pass on this track really well if you actually just go out there, and that was the challenge I needed.
Like, oh man, you can throw so many slide jobs. It's just crazy how many slide jobs you can throw.
So my one like personal Billy story, I've got 2, but my one personal one was, Brian, when they started on the back straightaway over there, he told us in the riders meeting, he said, there's going to be a chalk line. If because people like to roll their bikes back and forth, to pack that sand down a little bit, get a good start. And he said, if there is chalk on your tires, you're going to the back row, and we'll know because that chalk will stick. He said, you can do whatever you want, but if you get chalk on your tires, back row. And so this was when I thought I was a really good racer, and it was the state championship. This would have been like 07. And so I'm sitting there, I'm on the front row inside gate, and I'm just rolling it back and forth, back and forth. Well, of course, the bumper goes over the start line. And I don't remember who the starter was at this time. Y'all may know. I need to apologize to this guy, but he sees me rolling back and forth, and the bumper goes across and goes, back row, buddy. And I said, no, man, there ain't no chalk on my tires. He said, that ain't the rules. And he had a long day out in the, Sikeston, Missouri heat. And he was not having it. And I just said, hey, man. And of course, I've got a smart mouth and I'm just a little bit of a jerk anyway. And I was like, hey, man, Billy said chalk. There's no chalk. And he was not having it. Of course, Billy comes out there and he's like, what's the deal? I said, Billy, you said chalk on tires. And he said, roll backwards. He said, there ain't no chalk on those tires. Start the race. And I was just like, Billy's my hero. Billy's my hero. And that starter was, he was livid. The other awesome thing was last year, me and Dad and a few of our other cronies, we go race Ironman, the GNCC. Well, we race the morning race. We get done. We're headed home, and we cross the Missouri state line, and there's a sign that says Sikeston 24 miles. I called Kevin Allen. I called Ryland Johnson. I called Landon Williams. And I said, take the next exit, boys. We're going to Sikeston, because it was y'all's fall shootout. And we called Billy and we're like, hey, man, can we race the Nobby class? He said, well, you'll have to start on the back row. And we said, we'll start on the back row and do a dead engine just like it's a GNCC. And he's like, cool, come on. And the funniest thing is, Garrett's there and, several other of the, pro guys. They run the pro race, and then they pull off the track and just hang out at the fence because there's these stupid GNCC guys that have showed up at the last minute doing a dead engine start. And it was the funniest thing. And we had a blast. And then afterwards, Billy's like, hey, man, y'all didn't pay your gate fee.
Oh, my God.
Like, oh, come on, Billy. He goes, no, if y'all gonna come do it, y'all got to play by all the rules. And it's like, okay. But it was so fun. He's just like, yeah, sure, I don't care. And then, he was telling, he goes, hey, man, make sure you get your trophies. And we're like, dude, no, to give those trophies to those other guys, man. They came and showed up and practiced and did everything all day. And we literally were at the track 30 minutes. And we pulled in, threw the doors down, raced, loaded them back up, went home. I'll never forget that. It was awesome. Great time.
Yeah, I remember that night. That was pretty cool. Yeah. We all did stop to watch you guys.
Yeah, and it was like, everybody should be leaving right now, but they're like, look at these idiots on the back row. And what, their four-wheelers are off? Fun fact, I definitely did not kill mine. Everyone else killed theirs. I definitely had mine running. But, oh, man, it was a good time. And like, I was up at Ryland's the other day with Kevin Allen, and we were joking about that. Remember that time? It was good. It was good. Hey, one other thing I wanted to mention, I had put a post out and just said, hey, if you've got a great Billy story, send them. Some were absolutely hilarious. Y'all kind of touched on some or a version of them. And then some that I cannot read for reasons. But Tracy Eppenhauer sent just the sweetest, like most awesome message. And just to kind of summarize, she talked about that her husband, Matt, was kind of, hadn't had a good race there at Benton and was thinking about hanging it up. And Billy comes over and he's just like, what's the deal, man? Pumps him back up, gets him back in. And Tracy's like, we were getting ready to hang it up. Like we were fixing to be done racing. And because of Billy's conversation, when they got back home the next day, Matt's out there, getting ready for the 24 season, And
I want to read a little quote of kind of what she said about Billy as well. Yeah. She said, he valued us and every rider there. He wasn't just a series promoter. This man was had established a family of racers that we will never forget. He was genuinely hardworking, a kind-hearted person.
Yeah, I love that.
It's good.
He was. He for sure was.
Yeah, and that's your
he definitely was.
Mm-hmm. Well, my goodness, man. This, I have had, when we were kind of talking like, hey, would y'all be interested in coming on and just kind of, paying a little tribute here to Billy? Of course, y'all two were like, absolutely. Like, let us kind of get our feet under us, give us a couple of weeks here. But man, I've been looking forward just to kind of, give Billy the praise and credit he was due.
Absolutely.
Man, when the sport around here for us was kind of dying, Billy kept it going.
He did. He kept it going.
And even Dad said that. And when I guess last year when we kind of started dabbling back in it, Dad said, I've got to find Billy and just shake his hand. And I'm like, okay. And he said, well, think about it. And, we were talking about it. I'm like, man, that's awesome that, everyone else and tracks are closing and nobody's building parts and you can't get stuff. And SRP still getting after it every other weekend, So, man, Billy was a class act.
40 years at it, promoting races.
Yeah, he's done it all his life.
He
actually started working on people's four-wheelers and three-wheelers back when he was 16 under the carport. He would charge them like $20 to fix their fuller three-wheeler, and he would go racing that weekend.
Perfect.
That is awesome.
Hey, I want to highlight one other thing before we leave here this weekend. Or shoot, what's coming up this weekend?
Oh, yeah. Big deal.
Yeah, Flickerwood. So Flickerwood, y'all been hosting races there for quite a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad's birthday, it would be this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to celebrate that at the King of the Indoors there in Jackson, Missouri. Y'all got a lot of extra payout for racers to come out. So wanting it to be a big event there at Flickerwood this coming weekend on the 9th.
Yeah, is there anything specific, Beth? You want to highlight there, Beth? Sorry, I'm not trying to talk over you, but what are some of the key things you want to highlight about this weekend?
So we have a lot of outside sponsors that came in and put added money into various classes. Almost every class has a chance of winning like an additional $100 or some kind of prize. These people, they've all come together and they came to me, wanting to show their support and their, and how much they, thought of Dad. Dad actually affected a lot of people's life more than you would realize. I was just telling somebody the other day, if, for example, I'm going to just throw this out there because they've been, part of our lives forever. Back when Dad had CNC Cycle, John Worley actually worked for him.
Oh,
and
wow.
that's how John Worley started racing back then on a 250R. Well, that's how Jeremiah started racing, is because his dad raced.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, Jeremiah met Taylor because Alan Markham raced, and that's his daughter. So, I mean, it's brought a lot of people together. Wow. Not saying it was because of him, but for, his love of the sport, it brought everybody together.
Yeah, it's a little piece of the puzzle. Yeah, he can claim it, Beth. That's awesome.
I mean, it's just a lot to it. But this weekend, we're just wanting to show, his memory and what he's done and his love for the sport, and the people that's come together for it is, amazing. We have a lot of people who are just going to come to show the support, even the ones that don't race. So that it's really exciting.
Yeah, I know a lot of people coming for sure. And I think it's going to be a packed house. And y'all know them for the ATV side of it, but the stock car and sprint car side of it, I mean, there's just so many other people that, how y'all feel about the ATV side, they feel about the stock car side, sprint car side of it. He was promoting Benton, they opened back up, and they had some of the best races I've ever had this year,
Yeah,
but he's done a lot in his life. I mean, and people who say, he's so young, he was so young when he passed, but I tell him, look at him saying, he might have been young, but I promise you, he lived 100 years worth of his life.
Oh,
that's the truth.
That is a great way to look at it, Brian. Think about all the lives that, Beth, you were kind of painting the picture of like what all he's kind of brought together because of his love for racing and all the other people that it's brought together, but all the lives that he's impacted because of the just stepping out there and doing the thing he loved and trying to keep it going. Like, I mean, it goes way beyond just the racetrack. It kind of brings us together, but it impacts people. It leaves an impression on them, brings them together.
It's definitely been a very, emotional few weeks. The past few weeks have been very, very tough. And the support of people is just, I just can't thank everyone enough, for being there, for us. And, the send off the day of his funeral, we had 65 bikes out there.
Yeah.
I mean, and, we did a few burnouts. I blew my motor up. I know he's probably looking down on me mad, but, it's awesome the amount of people that, loved him and, he impacted, and, it's just,
Yeah. And the greatest part about this past year is that, he really got to see a lot. Like, it really came together for him this past year. I mean, he was real successful at Benton Speedway. He was on TV for the races, and on top of that, he got to see his grandkids race. Brian was racing. I was racing. For instance, like this past year, I know Brian, the 2 races he won, Dad got to see him, the last 2 races he raced, Dad got to see him and he won. So that was real exciting. And then Dad got to see me win my first TT Pro-Am national out here at Sykeston. And, that was it was so exciting. And there was just so much this year that he got to experience. And then my daughter, she raced Flickerwood this last time. And she, unfortunately, Ella's actually really allergic to hay. So she's never been able to really race Flickerwood. Well, somehow she was able to race and able to breathe, and she won that night. And that was actually the only race he flagged was her race. So she got to carry the checkered flag around, from him. And it was it was all very emotional, and we just want to keep those memories with us for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. I just want to say 2 things real quick. And so going back to, he done a lot this year. Well, Daniel, you did the banquet for us.
Yeah.
Dad has never sat down and watched a banquet.
Yeah.
And this year, he actually enjoyed it. He was cracking up, laughing. I mean, he loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
And, just thinking like that, like it's just like how everything happened this year. It's just crazy to think. But, and another thing is when was it, last year? I proposed to my wife now, and Dad, he lost a lot of weight, this year, and he tried to, better, his life and get healthier. But last year, he was not feeling real good, and I asked God. I was like, just please let him be at my wedding. That's just please. And so this year, I got married September 30th, and he was there. And I didn't really tell many people this, but it just felt like there was a reason why that happened the way it did, and everything lined up. And like that was September 30th, and then he passes away November 19th. And I just can't thank God enough, for him, allowing my dad to be there on my special day. So
man, that is awesome. To have that outlook, and man, that is so cool, Brian, to hear you say that. That's great, man. And that was, even with like the banquet last year, I secretly, I'm gonna let y'all know, don't tell nobody listens to this podcast anyway, but just for us 4 talking right now, I'm secretly trying to make my way into like pit reporter for like the Supercross series. So if y'all want to help me get there, that'd be great. And so I was like, man, I wonder if Billy would be up for like someone just helping out. And so we kind of reached out and got together, and he's like, dude, I'd love that. He said, I've never sat through an awards banquet. And just like you said, Brian. And so after it was over, he's like, hey man, that was awesome. And I was like, well,
yeah, he cracked. I mean, I sat right next to him. He was cracking up the whole time. I mean, it was just a smile on his face, man. It just priceless.
Yeah. Well, that's what
he did really enjoy it.
That's one thing too. That turkey, he could dish it out, but he could also take it.
Absolutely.
I mean, he knew when he was the butt of a joke, and he'd always have just a quick comeback. Well, what about that? What about that time I beat Keith and Greg Little?
Well, the thing about Dad is, for instance, one night him and someone would get into it, and it's like the next day they see each other, they just act like nothing happened. He could brush everything off like nothing even. I mean, it don't matter what it was. He would just he just gets over it. Like,
yeah, he wouldn't let it affect him.
Right.
Never.
Just keep going. Love it.
I mean, and like in Tracy's post that she sent us, she's like, man, he created this family of racers. And hey, you know what? Sometimes family fight. I mean, Mitch and I have gone at it a few times, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's like, hey, we know what we're here to do, and let's just get over it and move on. You know, I'm sure you two have never, ever, ever fought before. And I mean, look at you now. So living the dream.
We've got along better these last 2 weeks than I think we ever have in our entire life.
Probably.
Well, just keep it going. Well, I know we've got the banquet coming up. Emily and I were looking at the calendar today, and it's like, oh, that's like a month away. 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that.
Yep,
so,
January 6th at the Chateau on the lake at the Branson.
You got to say a chateau.
You got to say the chateau.
Yeah, it makes it sound fancy at least.
Yeah. Come here, Super D, at the chateau on the lake. You know, I don't know.
But I'm really excited about the banquet this year. We got a lot of great sponsors that are sending, hands-on products so everybody can see that firsthand. We got a lot of awards. I have over.
Stay tuned for that schedule.
Yeah, the schedule is done for next year, but we will release it at the banquet.
Come on, we're right here. Let's do it. Let's go.
We've been impatiently waiting. No, I'm kidding.
I know.
Hey,
no, that's fine.
Dad. We'll
do it at the banquet. That'll be fine.
That's right. We can wait, but if we don't have to.
But I'm gonna stop recording here in a minute. Y'all can drop it. Right? You know. I mean, you know what I'm saying. But anyway, well, hey, man, any other last thoughts before? I mean, good grief, we've been on here for 45 minutes just bragging on your dad, which is great. I mean, we can keep going, but man, y'all got any, final things or anything, shout outs, anything you want to do before we get off here this evening?
I just want to, tell everybody, thank you so much for, the love and support and the compassion that everybody have. There were so many people that actually reached out to us and even sent plants and flowers that you never even would have thought that would have done it. Mm-hmm. It really touched me. And some of the words, it might be the same thing everybody's saying over and over again. And there's not really a response you can give other than just thank you, but it does mean something. And we really appreciate that. We do, from the bottom of our heart.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And
same for me. And the amount of, love and support everyone's shown, and, we just can't, thank everyone enough. He was a great man. He smartest man I've ever met. He's just, we're definitely going to miss him, and we just appreciate everyone being there and supporting and loving him, and loving racing.
Well, man, I think we're gonna have a good time here in a few weeks, and are definitely going to celebrate him at the banquet, as well as this next season and all the good things that are happening. So it's going to be a good time for sure.
Yeah, I think it'll be super exciting. I'm ready for it. I just finishing up, getting everything together.
Yeah. It's a lot. I remember last year I kind of walked down there and I was just like, hey, do you need anything? And y'all were just getting after it. And I was like, yeah, I got to go. Bye.
Don't tell us that. Yeah. Don't tell us that this year. Cause you say that, we're like, come on.
Yeah. Get in here. Well,
I'll put you to work real quick.
Yeah. So don't say that this year.
Yeah. Well, and of course, if y'all need help, just reach out. People will turn up for sure. So I might help out, I guess, if you beg me. No, I'm just kidding. Well, hey, thank y'all so much for giving us some time tonight. I hope y'all have a good evening, and we will can't wait to see and hear all about this coming weekend. It's going to be good.
All right. Well, thank you guys again.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for letting us on.
Hey, here at Remain in the Race, we're all about Ryland Johnson Racing. For all of the aftermarket needs, from grab bars and bumpers to heel guards to complete custom builds, give them a visit at RylandJohnsonRacing.com.
Hey, man, again, we just want to say a big thank you to Beth and Bryan for giving up some time tonight, and for just sharing some good stories, some funny stories about their daddy. But, hey, we really want to pump up this weekend. So this is today is December the 6th.
Today's the 5th. The episode should drop on the 6th.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. I was thinking
the 9th, this Saturday.
Yeah. Second Saturday of December. what is it? Kings of Flicker? King of the Indoors.
King of the Indoors.
I'd get there eventually. And it's Billy's birthday. So
Billy's birthday.
Super cool. And Beth shared about, there's a lot of outside sponsorships that are coming in, and it's going to be a good time. I think if you're close or in the area, just drop in. Just go, stop in, say hello, make it happen, and it's going to be great. And we'll highlight it in episode 39. Hey, no, we'll come back to that later. But yeah, so again, thank you to the Claytons for doing that, and good things to come. We got a little nugget tonight.
We did get a little nugget.
I can't say it.
Yes, you're sworn to secrecy, so you cannot. You better keep that up your sleeve.
Yep.
You better keep it up your sleeve.
January 6th, come to the banquet, and then you will know what we know.
Wow.
I know, man.
Gotta go to the banquet to know.
Yeah, I hear the announcer there is going to be pretty good.
Oh, baby.
Or not. I don't know. We'll see.
You're going to have to show up to find out. TBD.
Yep. Speaking of banquets, NWEDT.
Well, the NE-EDT.
That's what I said.
Or the NEAT.
The NEAT.
Did you?
Yeah. Melissa kept saying the NEAT series.
I know, and I'm like, okay, I'm adopting that because you say the NE. You tried to shorten it, the NE, and she said the NEAT. Okay,
the NEAT.
So it is no longer the NE-EDT. It's the NEAT.
The
NEAT.
Yep, I like it.
The 2023 NEAT Awards. So these would have been the ones selected by the participants. Okay.
Yeah.
The track of the year goes to none other than 50 plus years running at Pine Lake.
I saw, I think Kook released a video. Dude, we got to partner up with the Kook guys. Do some videos.
Yeah.
Anyways,
let's go cuckoo.
He's still cuckoo. But they were doing a highlight from the 50th. By the way, congratulations on that. Why did I not go? Why did I not? I know why I didn't go. It was 2019. I had just come back from like a 12-day youth trip, and I would have been home like 12 hours and had to turn around and go. That's why I didn't go. But I asked myself, why didn't I go to that?
What an experience. I mean, just the whole thing was huge.
Yep.
And I looked back and I was like, dude,
that's awesome.
I got to stand on the podium at the 50th.
I know. That's
and
awesome.
You talk about like I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
That is cool.
I was like, Brad, you won, but I'm still in the podium because I'm so excited.
I'm the real winner.
Yeah. You keep winning. I got off the couch.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Hey, Brad, you never quit. And I've had 2 kids, got one on the way. Like, who's the real winner here? I'm sure Brad was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I'll beat you again.
Yeah.
Hey, so funny story. We won't go too far into this, but I've got that shirt that says the 50th, or Mom got it made for me, and it says Mitch the Rocket. It's got me and the sweeper. And you see on the inside, you see a red wheel and a blue bike. And it's Brad passing me, unfortunately. But
great.
So Remy asked me the other day, she was asking me what was on my shirt, and I said, that's Dad. And she said, well, what's that? And I said, well, that's Brad passing me. Well, why you let him pass you? I'm like, yeah, thank you.
Brad Riley, and he's fast.
Yes, he's very good. I didn't mean to open up that line, but he's good. But anyway, all right, back to what we were talking about. NEAT.
Yes.
Okay.
NEAT.
With the Pine Lake, great memories at Pine Lake. But track of the year, they keep it rocking. Amateur rider of the year.
Garbage. Absolutely garbage.
Absolutely not. Absolutely the short track Pro-Am winner, the women's, the BTR women's. I mean, the accolades keep stacking up. Mel Torchio.
Yes. Very well deserved.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
She crushed it. Go back and listen to the episode where we had her on. Super fun to visit with. Great time.
Absolutely. Got to get her back on soon.
Yeah.
She was a good visit.
This next award.
No, wait. I am waiting on that for the last.
Oh, okay.
I can't. That's why I have it bold, baby.
Okay.
Youth Rider of the Year, Wesley Stanley. So looking forward to some upcoming episodes. Maybe hearing from Wes Stanley.
Stay tuned.
And then your Pro Rider of the Year, none other than Mr. 7-time in 2023. I mean, how does that work? He just
obliterate everybody.
Absolutely. What a freaking year. Way to go, CJ. But this next one, this man, I swear, he just keeps it going. The EDT Ambassador of the Year Award, Mr. Eric Ashcraft,
Absolutely.
Mr. CEWO Outfitters.
So
Close
cool,
Encounter
man.
Whitetail Outfitters. The man whose arm never gives out holding the phone.
Nope.
He calls every race all the time.
Yep.
Stands out there, umbrella, no umbrella.
Marinating. Just marinates in the sun.
No food, no water.
Nope.
This man hardly has clothes on.
That's true too.
He's the man.
Eric Ashcraft, way to go. As far as I know, hadn't heard any different, but he's going to be there doing it all again next year.
That man, what a great guy.
Yeah.
We've all got to appreciate him.
We need to at least get him a tripod. I think we could could we sponsor NET World?
Okay.
Could we sponsor Eric a tripod?
It's just supposed to be going on in the background. Like I've already gotten messages about this. So
moving on.
We might need to double check and make sure it happens. But anyway, so that's about all I got for this episode. Man, what a good episode. The Billy Clayton.
Yeah.
The Billy Clayton show.
The Billy Clayton, the 155.
The 155, the green machine, the kicking it sideways, getting the whole shot.
Yeah.
Riding the wide track, as Brian said. Something of that nature.
Yeah. As we kind of wrap this one up, one of the things I think about, and even after we hit record, and, we were kind of visiting with Beth and Bryan a little bit, but the passage that says, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness. I think that's 1 Peter 3:15, I think.
Yeah, I can double check. You give me just a little bit.
Anyways, it's just one of those things, man. Life happens all the time, and it's just anytime, something like this happens, with Billy's just sudden passing, it's just a reminder that, we I tell people all the time, I don't know how you raise a family without a church family.
Yeah.
Because there's health issues, there's you lose the loved one, and those are the people that just love you and wrap you up. They're right there, and they're going to be with you day in and day out. That's kind of one of the downsides to the race world is, we see each other and we love each other and we hang out, but Julia, she's in Illinois, and some of our other buddies, like I'm thinking of one of the guys I've got to meet this year, and I talked to way too much. One of Ryland's cross country guys, Billy Pullen. I love Billy, but he's in Indiana. It's kind of hard to just go give when someone's going through a bad day, just to give them. But your church family, you're going to see them every week, man. So
that's right.
Get plugged into a church.
You were exactly right. 1 Peter 3.
Okay.
And you had the exact verse, but I want to read a series of verses there.
Go for it. Hit me with it.
Because, Peter's talking to them about suffering for doing good. They were undergoing persecution, and the doing good is following that message which they heard, the gospel.
Right.
Following Jesus, even though they were going to be persecuted. And the reason being is you should worship Christ as your Lord of your life. And if someone asks you what your hope as a believer is, always be ready to explain it. But do it in a gentle and respectful way. Keep your conscience clear. Then if people speak against you, they'll be shamed when they see what a good life you live because you belong to Christ. So regardless of the circumstances, regardless if, life poops on you, if things go bad, just keep it steady. And then people are going to be drawn to that, wondering, what's your hope in? And it's because our hope is not circumstantial. It's in the person of Jesus Christ, knowing that God is in control of all things.
It's not based on a feeling or an emotion. It's on fact.
That's right.
It's the truth. So, we have definitely preached a sermon that wasn't my intent, but man, again, this
but any opportunity we get to talk about
absolutely
Jesus and His goodness, for sure.
And always give a reason for the hope that you have, but do it with gentleness and respect. I'm gonna keep going. So, in our church staff right now, we're working through some things, and we were talking the other day or today actually, and it was like, we want to be the type of I want to be the type of person. You want to be the type of person that when other people see us out in the community or at the racetrack, they're going to go, I don't know what that guy has, but I want it. Like even though the tie rod end broke in the weirdest situation ever, or motor, whatever, but even in the situations where they should act this way, like there's just something about them that they don't act like that. Yep. And they're not that every day is going to be, the greatest day of your life, but your attitude and how you handle that, there's something about it. And other people will notice that. And I remember I heard that one time when I was a student in a youth group, and it was like, live a life to where other people are like, I want what you have. Like, teach me that. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do.
That is.
I mean,
absolutely.
But as God works in you and you allow him, then he does. And you look back and you think, wow, like it's really him who changes your perspective and gives you the ability to do that. So super cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, man. Well, that's number 38/155. Yeah. All right. Close us out here, Mitch. Let's do it.
All right. Father God, we thank you for loving us. We thank you for providing for us, God. We pray that you'll just help us each day to have the perspective that you want us to have, God, to just be joyful and hopeful and just look forward to you, God. Help us to shine your light. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, hey, thank y'all for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.